Well, round 11 of the AFL season had absolutely everything. We had another draw. Can you believe it? We've seen more draws than we can remember in recent times. Unbelievable stuff. We had this nation's, I guess, number one broadcaster. Some say, or many say, he's the number one broadcaster across most sports. Gerard Whateley on SEN. He went the early crow and said, this thing's all over. Collingwood are going to win the game. Fremantle said not quite, and they clawed their way back, had a chance to win the game, could not do so. It ends in a draw. I tell you what, those 8 starts on a Friday night out west, they're a long night. They make for a long night. I'm going to talk about a team that we can trust and a team that we can no longer trust. They may make the 8, the team that we can no longer trust, but they'll only scrape in, and I'm not sure they'll do much damage. So looking forward to talking about that. Of course, this week on the 7 AFL socials, I had a look at Stephen May. He's a demon by name, and he's a demon by nature. His ability to defend his man, to defend and help his teammates and use the footy, that's why I think he's the best big man in the competition. Also keen to have a quick chat about Lloyd Johnstone, the man who punched out the backflip after kicking a nice goal. Wondering whether someone or anyone will criticise the move. The Cats, what's going on at Catland? They won their first 7. They've dropped their next 4. Not sure what's happening there. And the Bombers, they are flying high. So looking forward to having a quick look at them. And one of the reasons they've got an awesome foursome down back, and that could be the secret ingredient for the Bombers if they're to make a big push this season. So looking forward to getting stuck into all of those things. But let's start with the team that we can trust and the team that we can no longer trust. The team we can trust, Blues fans, is your Navy Blues. We can trust the Carlton Footy Club. I thought going into the game against Gold Coast, yes, it was at Marvel, but I had faith and I had belief that Carlton would get the job done. And that was a beatdown. It was a beatdown around the footy. Some of the numbers were unbelievable in favour of the Carlton Footy Club. The boys around the footy absolutely got to work. Sam Walsh, you can trust him. Yes, he's been tagged once or twice this season and been quelled, but he had 30 plus, more than 500 metres gained on the day. Patrick Cripps went to Matt Rowell or vice versa, or they just met in the middle and said, good luck and let's go. Well, he was dominated, young Rowell. Paddy Cripps turned back the clock, 31 disposals, 13 clearances. I think it was 10 clearances to 1. Cripps versus Rowell at halftime. I reckon he picks up the 3 votes, Paddy Cripps. Blake Acres keeps doing his thing out on the wing. He just burns up the turf. He was fantastic. And we mentioned this on the field a few weeks ago. There's no doubt Mark Pitnett is an AFL ruckman, and he's really serviceable, probably more than serviceable for his footy club. But Tom De Koning is the future. Tom De Koning is the number one ruckman at the Carlton Footy Club. It's just about keeping him fresh, keeping his body and his load under control. But when he breaks out like he did on the weekend, there's no doubt he can be one of the better ruckman in the competition. 25 disposals, 27 hitouts, and 10 clearances, if you don't mind. He was absolutely outstanding. And then you've got really solid performances, rock-solid performances from guys like Newman and McGovern down back. Kennedy was good through the middle part of the ground, as was Hewitt. And Jacob Wiedering, he's always rock solid. There's been some criticism around for him. I can understand it, but I think he's been a really, really important player this season. Maybe not at his absolute best, but certainly on the weekend, he was very, very good. And then you've got Charlie Curnow. Now, there was a lot of chatter about Mac Andrews' role and performance on him in the first half and why you'd go away from that. And I think that's valid. If you've got a superstar under control, then keep him under control. But that's not Charlie's concern. He's just playing the game. If they change his matchup and move someone else onto him, so be it. What he can do and what we know and have seen from him, and he may have done it on Mac Andrew anyway, is he only needs small periods in the game to take over, to kick 2, 3, 4 goals in a quick instant and really win the game for his footy club. And that's what he did. Now, he ends up with 13 disposals. He kicks his 4 goals. He doesn't take a heap of marks. He doesn't consistently dominate the game, but he can stand up when you need him, and he can kick goals from almost any type of situation. We know he can jump up in the air and take a fantastic mark. We know he can get it at ground level. We know that he can win it in a contest, and he can certainly play around the contest and around the stoppages when needed as well inside forward 50. So the Blues, we can trust them. They get to 7-4. They've got a mammoth game on Channel 7 this Thursday night. That one's over in Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, the Portress, against the 8-3 Port Adelaide Footy Club. Now, Port are only one game ahead in terms of the win-loss factor, but they're 5 places higher on the ladder. So this is a gigantic game of footy. It's not an 8-point game, but it's certainly a big game of footy. We can trust the Carlton Footy Club. A team we can't trust, we can no longer trust. A team I've trusted for a long time. A team I tipped to win the premiership last year and this year, but I'm done with them. They can no longer be trusted. The Brisbane Lions, last year's grand finalists. About 28 minutes into the last quarter on the last day last year, they were the premiers. Fast forward a couple of minutes and they were the runners-up. And this season just has not gone at all how they expected it to go. We know they started the season off really poorly. They've been behind the ledger throughout. I didn't expect them to walk all over the Hawks because the Hawks' form since their first month of the season has been really good. I did an interesting exercise on the weekend where I went back and did the ladder based on the past 5 weeks. I left the percentage out of it, which I guess probably doesn't allow me to tell the true story or the full story about the ladder. But the Hawks are right up there in terms of what they've done lately, as are a couple of other teams. But Brisbane at Marvel, they've had a really good record at Marvel Stadium. They've beaten some good teams there over the past couple of years. I thought they'd go there and get the job done. I thought they'd, win the game by 3 or 4 goals. And it was the same old story, the same old issues, the same old nagging problems for the Brisbane Lions, finishing and the ability to stay composed, remain composed, and take your chances. It was inefficiency and inaccuracy in the Brisbane forward line. They either won or equaled clearances, centre bounce clearances, inside 50s, contested possessions, marks, tackles, and tackles inside 50. All of those key metrics were either in favour or equal in favour of the Lions. So break even or in favour of Brisbane, yet they lose the game because, once again, they failed when it comes to the most important aspect of the game, and that's conversion. That's goal kicking. It's accuracy. You hear guys like Jason Dunstall bang on about it forever, and there's a good reason for it because you can dominate all the stats you like, but if you can't put the ball through the big sticks, then you have a massive problemo. The Hawks kick 15 goals, 10. The Lions kick 10 goals, 15. Simple as that, 25-point margin, and we can no longer trust the Brisbane Lions. Some of the guys who were culpable for the misses, basically everyone. Kyle Oman, who's shown a bit over the past few weeks, and he'll be a player, kicks 2 goals, 3. Charlie Cameron, my little mate from the Crows back in the day, kicked 1 goal, 3, missed a couple of absolute sitters, put one on the full, and then 8 individual Lions, aside from those 2, kicked behinds as well. So just ugly, ugly, ugly. It's one that they let slip. There were other elements in the game. Some of the centre bounce goals and stoppage goals that the Hawks were able to kick were just not becoming of a team who has aspirations of finishing in the top 8, let alone the top 4, which is where they expected to be. So I'll say it one last time before we move on. I can trust Carlton. I cannot trust the Brisbane Lions. Quick one, a really quick one. Gold Coast son Lloyd Johnstone in that clash between the Suns and Carlton. He does a backflip. He kicks a goal from a set shot, and then he just goes, whoop, straight over the back, a quick backflip. The Fox Footy cameras actually missed it. They had to show it on replay. Thankfully, they caught it on replay. Imagine if the commentators picked it up and the cameras missed it. But absolutely loved it, Lloyd. Keep doing it, Jono. I'm not sure what your nickname is. LJ, Jono, whatever it is. Keep doing it. Every time, make it your signature. Every time you kick a goal, you go and do a backflip. Unless you're down by 10 goals late in the contest. Because we are in an entertainment business. Sometimes we forget about that. Inside footy clubs and outside footy clubs, we forget. This is an entertainment business. And that was very, very, very entertaining. Now, let's talk about the Geelong Footy Club. and why perhaps we shouldn't be surprised with what's going on. They're 7-4 as we get to the end of round 11. So basically halfway through the season, close enough to. It's an uneven season these days, but they're 7-4. I'm not surprised. If you had have said after 11 games, where would the Cats be? You told me they were 7-4. So that's pretty good. Maybe a game or so ahead of where I thought they'd be, but I did tip them to finish 6th on the ladder. So thereabouts. What is surprising, or what has been surprising, is they peeled off 7 in a row and then they dropped 4 in a row. So they've gone from looking all conquering and a genuine premiership contender, and media pundits are saying, well, here we go again. Do not write off the Cats. We've done it 10, 11, 12 times in the past 15 years, and we're going to be made look foolish again. And then the past month. So they win 7 straight, and the past month they've looked absolutely pedestrian, blown away by the Gold Coast Suns, absolutely blown out of the water against Port Adelaide, only to make a late rally. They've been beaten again by the Giants in Geelong, and a couple of players are starting, to me, to show some real genuine fatigue and some concern for Chris Scott. So does he now lean on the older guys like he has in the past, and they've been good to him and he's been good to them? Or does he play younger guys? Does he keep Jai Clark in the team? Does he keep playing Toby Conway in the ruck? Does he keep playing Shannon Neal up front? Or does he bring back a Gary Rowan if he's healthy? What about a Shane Mullen? These are the questions I think Chris Scott and the coaching staff will be asking themselves. Is it Rowan and Tui and Duncan and these guys who we're going to lean on? Or will we hope to still get the same output and the same productivity from a win-loss perspective, but still playing these young guys? Because Mark Blitzavs, to me, Superman. Now, he'll miss this week with a suspension, which they've accepted. He looks weary. He looks worn out to me. He carries as big a load as anyone in the competition because he plays backup ruck. He tags the best midfielder from at different stages. He plays as a genuine mid. He plays on the wing. And we've seen twice this year, the Cats have subbed out their number one ruckman and asked Blitzavs to do the rest of the game. So against Port Adelaide, they subbed Reece Stanley before halftime and said, Blitz, we need you to ruck the rest of the game. And they did it again against the Giants on the weekend. Young Conway was subbed from the game and Blitzavs was asked to do the rest by himself. He's 33. And as I mentioned, he's got a lot of Ks in those legs. He's got a lot of wear and tear on that body. He does endless amounts. I've witnessed it firsthand, the amount of injury prevention that he does, which is a testament to the way he goes about it as a professional. But he really has to look after his body. And I reckon we're starting to see signs of him slow down. He can no longer match it with those fast, those guys around the midfield who have got fast feet. So I reckon they might need to continue to lean on Conway and or Stanley in the ruck and try and limit what Blitzavs has to do. A suspension is probably a blessing for him because he gets a rest. The other one is Jeremy Cameron. Now, we spoke earlier in the year about roaming Jerry and the roaming element to his game, and his disposals per game are career high across the board. And we know that he's been so damaging in certain games, creating and setting up scores, but they need him inside forward 50. There's no doubt about it. I saw some stats on the AFL Instagram page of the players that have been targeted inside 50, the top 3 from each club. And Ollie Henry was up in the low 70s, whilst Hawkins and Cameron were in the 40s. I believe Jeremy Cameron's number was 40 times targeted inside 50, whereas Ollie Henry, who's a much smaller, shorter key forward, if you like, was up around 72 times targeted. That number doesn't work for me. Now, Jeremy Cameron, of course, as we've come to love, is not a stand, deliver, compete on the ball type of forward, but he can do it. What he excels at when he's inside 50 is having space. He can get on the lead. He can hit up. He can get back to goal with his supreme athleticism. The ball can be kicked in space and he can make things happen along the ground. But when he's not inside forward 50 enough and when he's not ahead of the ball enough, he can't be a threat. So his season's been really interesting. 21 goals from 10 games this year. He's missed a game. That's the lowest output for him since 2014 aside from the COVID season where the games were a lot shorter, and we know that he didn't necessarily have his best individual season. So that's his lowest output in terms of goals per game since 2014. And he kicked 6 of the 21 against the Kangas. And then he had another bag of 5 when he was really good against Carlton. So in the other games, in the other 8 games, he's only kicked 10 goals, which is a really, really low return for someone of his stature and his ability to kick goals. We know he's been a 60-pluser on a handful of occasions, and he is being paid. Now, I really try to stay away from how much someone gets paid and what sort of reflection that needs to have on their performance, but he is being paid, and he's been brought to the club as the successor to Tom Hawkins in terms of who runs that forward line. And we know Hawkins' form has been, up and down and wavering at different stages. The man is about to turn 36. Well, I think Cameron needs to be left inside forward 50, park the roaming stuff for a month. He needs to kick 15 or so goals for the month and absolutely return to being that Coleman medal winning forward that we know he is. And it'll help Geelong get their season back on track. One team who has their season fully on track is the high-flying Bombers. They sit outright second on the ladder. They dealt with a plucky Richmond during Dreamtime at the G. They got it done. Jake Stringer was absolutely airborne in the first quarter. He got the job done. And Jordan Ridley returned off a long layoff and was the best afield. He was the medalist on the weekend. He was the best player on the ground as adjudicated by most. And his return to that lineup gives the Bombers a quartet who I think are unmatched when it comes to this part of the game and this element of the game. They've got 4 guys. And now they've got Ben Mackay, who they picked up in the offseason as their big key defender, their primary defender. But they've got 4 guys now who can do it all for the Bombers. And they create so much. They win so much of the ball. And I reckon a stat you can track, particularly Bombers fans, is when these 4 guys get 100-plus possessions between them, I don't think the Bombers will get beaten much at all. So you've got Jordan Ridley, who's the hybrid intercept marking, creative defender who's already a best and fairest winner. You've got Andy McGrath, who can play as a dashing but really good lockdown small defender who plays on the small forwards, the dangerous small forwards, but also runs off them and gets stuff done the other way. You've got Nick Martin, whose move to the back line has been absolutely sensational. He runs all day, he creates, and he's a good kick. And that's why he's back there. And then you've got Mason Redmond, who's a bit of a combination of Martin and Ridley. He's a rangy type. He's got long arms. He can get up and defend against bigger forwards. But what he can do also is run, meet his game, kick the ball nice and long, and get quite aggressive. So Ridley, McGrath, Martin, and Redmond, you've got 4 guys who can do a bit of everything. They can all get the ball 20-plus times. Some can get it 30-plus. They're creative, they're good kicks, and they can mark the ball and win the ball back off the opposition. It's a weapon the Bombers have that I don't think any other team has in the competition, and that's why maybe they're up and about, sitting second on the ladder. They'll get a good test this weekend against the Gold Coast Suns, and then some big games in the back half of the season for the Dons. And now I worked Sunday on radio. I did the Melbourne and St Kilda game. And I saw another cog for Melbourne that I really enjoyed. So I've been low on Melbourne and slow on Melbourne as a team who will potentially drop out of the 8. Now, that looks an inaccurate call, I should say. But I will say I'm warming to them being a premiership contender, but I'm still a no at the moment. What they have shown me against Geelong was the ability to kick goals from set shots when you really need them. And that's what they struggled with at times last year and the year before. They showed against Carlton, albeit in a loss, that they could kick goals in bunches, in a flurry to get themselves back into a contest. And then what they showed against the Saints. Now, the Saints are nowhere at the moment. We should say that. But they got goals and scores from various different sources because McAdam and Petty did not hit the scoreboard. Both were basically unsighted on Sunday. Van Rooyen was quiet, but did end up with 3 goals, so that's a good return for him. but they got 2 from Viney, 2 from Petrarca. They got a goal from Cozzy, from Cade Chandler, from Lockie Hunter. Big Max kicked one. Stephen May kicked one. He celebrated accordingly, as mentioned. But they're getting goals from different sources, and that's important for them. I do think at some stage it will come to the crunch where they need some goals from Petty or from McAdam, and they'll need 2 a week from Van Rooyen. Bailey Fritsch, we know, is a reliable goal kicker. He kicked a couple on the weekend. But when that core group of 3 or 4 forwards, so primary forwards, are not kicking goals, it is a good sign to see Melbourne still be able to put up 100 points, because it's not something they've been able to do much in the past couple of years, particularly since they picked up that premiership. So another little string to the bow for the D's, the ability to kick a score without your forwards doing much of anything, the ability to kick goals in a hurry, and the ability to kick goals when you really need them. So the D's are up and about, and the Saints, the less said about them, the better. Stephen May was the focus, staying with the Demons. He was the focus of the 7 AFL video on the socials this week on Instagram and X. Some great vision from down the ground. You can see him willing to come forward off his direct opponent. He played a Max King for the most part. He's willing to come forward and impact the game. He's a great individual defender. He's a great help defender. He comes up and helps and plays in line with the game. And he's also a really, really potent kick. And he's a prolific ball winner these days as well. I know he takes a few kickouts, but he's getting the ball 20 to 25 times consistently as well. Some people say Sam Taylor's the number 1 key defender in the game. I know Phil Davis on Trade Radio was strong on that last year, and you'd expect him to be strongly in Sam Taylor's camp. Some say it's Jacob Wiedering, and I've been in the Wiedering camp, but I have to say Stephen May's 1-2-3 combo, his ability to defend his man, his ability to go and help his teammates, and then his ball use off the defensive 50 is what separates him and stands him out as the best key defender in the game. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Leave a comment or jump on the socials and let us know, because that's about a wrap for round 11. It's in the rearview mirror. Round 12, we've got 2 more Thursday night games for the season, both in Adelaide. So make sure you enjoy those. The footy's not far away. So thanks for watching. Keep watching. Make sure you have subscribed, and make sure you tell someone else to subscribe as well, and keep it absolutely locked into the footy all year long. We'll catch you again next week.